Welcome everyone to Ratioed. My name is Harrison Faulkner. What were you doing on Saturday night? Hopefully you were taking some time to unplug from the computer and taking some time to catch up with family and friends. Well, our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who doesn't have any friends, decided to try his hand at stand-up comedy. Yes, and he went to the one place where he could guarantee that people would laugh at his jokes and not at him. That, of course, being a room full of the journalists he pays off at the Parliamentary Press Gallery dinner. And if you want to watch a train wreck in real time, keep watching this show because we have his stand-up routine that he delivered on Saturday. And let's just say he doesn't really have the gift of gab. Also on the show, Danielle Smith has embarked on a noble crusade, that of course being to rid the province of Alberta of the World Economic Forum and the influences of Klaus Schwab. There's a problem with that, however. That is that the legacy media journalists, which Justin Trudeau pays off, don't really like that too much. They don't really like the idea of a conservative premier talking about the World Economic Forum. It really gets under their skin. It really grinds their gears. And luckily for all of us, Danielle Smith isn't having any of it, and she absolutely put down a whining and crying legacy media journalist who took real issue with what she had to say about the WEF. And for the Ratio of the Week award, it is going to the one man who does more to help Justin Trudeau than any Liberal cabinet minister could ever dream of. And he's not even a part of the Liberal Party. That being, of course, well, you guys know who I'm probably talking about at this point, but you're going to have to stick around to watch the show. Drop a like on the video, share it around, and help us to reach 100,000 subscribers by hitting the subscribe button. The comment question for this episode is this: was Pierre Poilievre right to skip the Parliamentary Press Gallery dinner, or should he have taken the stage and given Justin Trudeau and the legacy media a taste of their own medicine? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Like I said, drop a like on the video, share it around, and if you're feeling generous, please consider donating to us at donate.tnc.news. The link is in the description of this video. All right, let's get into it. Stand-up comedy is no easy job. I mean, think about it. You've got to get a whole room of people to laugh at your jokes, and if you're bombing on stage, if you're failing, then you've got a whole room of people that are going to be laughing at you and not at your jokes. Got to be a pretty terrible feeling. But there's an easy workaround, you see. You can just decide who is in the room. You can decide who is in the audience to guarantee that your jokes will land or your attempted jokes will land. And even easier, you see, if you're Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. Because if you're Justin Trudeau, you can just fill a whole room full of sycophantic journalists who you've stuffed the pockets of for the last 5 to 6 years. Easy. You've got a whole room full of people who are just going to gladly clap along and laugh at your horrible jokes and make you think that you're the king of the world, make you think that you're the next Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais, the funniest man on earth. So you guys want to watch an absolute train wreck? You want to watch a room full of Laurentian elites laughing at the peasants as they make jokes about you fighting for your freedom, as they make jokes about you wanting to regain control of your life? Watch this absolute train wreck from Justin Trudeau on Saturday night.
We all know he's too busy staying up late, tweaking his YouTube algorithms. But if you wanted him to come, you just should have told him you were occupying the museum, and he would have shown up with Timbits.
Oh, Justin. Oh, Justin Trudeau. You are just the funniest guy. You are just the funniest guy.
Many fun events like tonight were canceled. But once people got vaccinated, things started picking up again. Winterlude was really awesome this year. They had a hot tub.
Oh, they had a hot tub? Oh, Justin Trudeau.
Look, it's not an easy job being leader. I myself spent a lot of time this year surrounded by honking and wailing. I don't know what their deal was, but the geese and loons at Harrington just wouldn't shut up.
Harrington Lake, like that time when you ran away from your own citizens because you're too much of a weak leader to face them. Oh yeah, that's great. That's just great.
We now have a new leader of the official opposition. I know most of you haven't had a chance to see him in person yet. I think we can all agree that it's David Aiken's fault that he didn't show up tonight. Although you'd think that Poilievre would have a thicker skin. He grew up in Alberta in the 80s with the name Pierre.
Ah, yes, Justin Trudeau talking about thicker skin in the 80s. Coming from the guy who, in the 80s, painted his own skin black, donned an afro wig, and sang Deo.
Last summer, Pierre told his pal Jordan Peterson that he's a, quote, believer in using simple Anglo-Saxon words. I know, I didn't get it either, but I'm told it sounds much better in the original German.
Oh, I mean, listen to this guy. He's the next coming of Richard Pryor. He's the next Rodney Dangerfield. With jokes like that, you could end up on This Hour Has 22 Minutes. Think about this, though. With a room full of people whose lives depend on Justin Trudeau stuffing their pockets to make a living, whose lives depend on Justin Trudeau paying them off, even then, he still can't get them to laugh at his jokes. If that doesn't tell you you're a bad comedian, I don't know what does, honestly. But then again, I don't want to tell him to stick to politics because I think we'd all be better off if he tried to pursue a career in comedy and left politics for somebody else. The True North posted a compilation of Justin Trudeau's jokes aimed at conservatives and aimed at Pierre Poilievre on Twitter and Facebook. And on Facebook, the video had 10,000 comments. And on Twitter, the video has over like 200,000 views. So there's a bunch of stuff to make fun of here. There's a bunch of stuff to get into. I want to pull some of your comments before moving on. And some of them are really good. Like this person here. Dude, I'm German too. It's Klaus Schwab. Don't cast all Germans in such a bad light. Don't cast them all like Pierre Poilievre. I mean, you've got your buddies like Klaus Schwab who are German too. They don't want to be, in the same league as Pierre Poilievre here. Easy there, Trudeau. And then this person writes, laughs in Laurentian elite. Yes, we're just going to have our little bash, our little Laurentian elite powwow, our shindig where we can, sip champagne and laugh down at the peasants for trying to fight for their freedom. Oh, haha, you little peasants. You want your freedoms back? You want to have some fun with your freedoms back? No, time for the horses, time for the Emergencies Act, we're going to put you down now. And then this person writes on Facebook, well, that's even more cringeworthy than his usual drivel. It's a good thing he uses our tax dollars to pay these journalists so he has someone to laugh at him when he thinks he's being funny. That would be true, but listen to the room. I mean, they're not even laughing at Trudeau's jokes. And when one Twitter user called out the Laurentian elite for being the champagne socialists that they are, sitting up in Ottawa, sipping their champagne and laughing down at the peasants fighting for their freedom, well, that didn't sit too well with one of Global News' top propagandists, one of Justin Trudeau's very best mouthpieces. She writes, yes, the classic Laurentian elite. Journalists who make an average salary of $45K per year in Canada. Oh, Rachel, you poor thing. Yeah, you probably make $45K a year, but that's why you weren't invited to the event. You had to be the cleanup crew to come in the day after and clean up the mess for the Champagne Socialists, your bosses, who make $200,000 a year. So Danielle Smith has had a pretty interesting first few weeks as Alberta Premier. If you remember, on her very first day as Premier of Alberta, she dared to do the unthinkable. She dared to defend the unvaccinated, and by doing so, the legacy media journalist called for her head. They said they couldn't believe she dared to defend the unvaccinated, and then she issued a groveling statement, basically an apology the next day, begging for forgiveness from the legacy media for daring to defend the unvaccinated. Then, of course, in that same week, she was forced to issue her second apology, this time for comments she made about Ukraine. So it wasn't looking very good. It was looking like maybe conservatives had the old Aaron O'Toole on their hands, a conservative who constantly backtracks and apologizes for being a conservative. Well, that changed this week because Danielle Smith decided to embark on a very noble crusade, that being to rid the Alberta Health Services and the province of Alberta of the influences of the World Economic Forum. Take a look at what she said to Western Standard journalists regarding the Alberta Health Services agreement with the World Economic Forum.
I must tell you, I believe that Alberta Health Services is the source of a lot of the problems that we've had. They signed some kind of a partnership with the World Economic Forum right in the middle of the pandemic. We've got to address that. Why in the world do we have anything to do with the World Economic Forum? That's got to end.
So there you go. Pretty solid stuff right there. Danielle Smith saying it very clearly and very plainly. Why does Alberta have anything to do with the Switzerland-based World Economic Forum? And in particular, why does the Alberta Health Services have anything to do with the World Economic Forum? I mean, that is clearly something that should be addressed. But you see, there's a problem. The legacy media journalists that get paid off by Justin Trudeau seem to not like it very much when a conservative premier starts to talk about the World Economic Forum. They really like to chirp up actually quite a bit when a premier dares to challenge the WEF. Now we can sit here and pretend like the World Economic Forum has no influence in this country, but that of course would be false. Just take a look at what Klaus Schwab said about infiltrating Canada's cabinet.
What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, And I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
So they infiltrate the cabinets of Canada, and it's not a problem at all. It's no issue for legacy media. That would be something that they would have no interest in investigating at all whatsoever. Of course, right? Because why would they dare try and look into something like that would perhaps cast their dear leader, the man who pays them their salaries, in a bad light? Well, Danielle Smith didn't get that memo, and she's on a noble crusade to try and rid the province of the WEF. And take a look at how a legacy media journalist handled all of that at Danielle Smith's cabinet announcement. Completely unhinged. Watch this.
Sorry, Premier, before we, I think there's some unfinished business from Saturday. I think Albertans deserve an answer. As you know, you're the Premier, you can make health decisions, but I think you would agree there's a responsibility to explain to Albertans why you're making these decisions. WEF. It's not clickbait, Premier. It's not entertainment. It's actually a health policy decision that you announced on Western Standard on Friday. AHS confirms there is a deal with WEF. It's very minor. It's an information sharing deal, but it does exist. And you're saying we are going to cancel that and anything to do with WEF. Policy decision. So, sorry, I had to write this down because it was that. What concerns do you have then with WEF? And is it because you accept the online conspiracy theory that WEF is a front for a global cabal of world leaders bent on using the pandemic to destroy capitalism and install a socialist dysfunctional dystopia? And I'm sorry if I didn't get the whole theory correct.
Do you think that the WEF is a global cabal for a world dystopia? I mean, who wrote that question? I mean, he said there he has to reference his notes, which makes me think you were asked to tell that question by someone who wrote that question for you. Because if you're a real journalist, you clearly have other things to ask about. And the journalist admitted that this so-called deal with the WEF is an information sharing deal. So why would it matter if Danielle Smith wants to get rid of that deal? Why would it matter if Danielle Smith wants to end that agreement? The point stands. Why does the AHS have an agreement with the WEF in the first place? It looks and sounds very fishy. But he's not done there, you see. He wants to keep going. He has more to ask about the WEF.
Where then, Premier, you still haven't answered the question, Premier. You do not want to have anything to do with the WEF. And you have a well-documented appetite for alternative media sources. So if you're not going to answer the question, and you haven't done so now a third time, the question is, why won't Danielle Smith answer that question? And I'll put it to you, Premier. I'll put it to you that you believe this theory, and I think it matters that you explain whether or not you believe this WEF theory, because it looks like you're actually basing health policy based on it.
I think it makes sense to make health decisions based on health experts. The group that you mentioned and the person at the helm of it, I don't think he's a medical doctor. I don't think he's a nurse, and I don't think he's a paramedic, and I don't think he's a health professional. As I've said, I am going to be taking advice from our frontline nurses, doctors, paramedics, and health professionals.
So there you go. He just drops any semblance of being an actual journalist. He goes, I'll put it to you that you actually believe this theory. You actually believe this conspiracy theory. Why aren't you answering the question, Danielle Smith? Why do you believe in these conspiracy theories? It's actually very refreshing to hear a conservative politician stand her ground, stand there, and defend her statements in front of these insanely unhinged legacy media journalists. It's what we want to see. Canadians want to see this. They don't want to see apologies, Danielle Smith. They don't want to see backtracking. They don't want to see statements. They want to see you stand your ground and defend what you have to say. So, please, no more backtracking, no more apologizing. It's not just that unhinged legacy media journalist asking the question. All of them believe that Danielle Smith, now because he's talking about the WEF, needs to be labeled as a loon or as crazy, because that's just how legacy media journalists think. Take a look. This is from CBC Laurentian talking head Andrew Coyne, also known as the anti-social yob guy. Yes, that's what he called the peaceful truckers in Ottawa when they were protesting. He called them anti-social yobs on our state broadcast. Remember this, Coyne?
In many cases, they're not even truckers at all. They're basically a bunch of antisocial yobs with delusions of grandeur, a persecution complex, and too much time on their hands.
Coyne on Twitter wrote, Premier Loon vows to protect Albertans from public health measures imposed by the World Economic Forum. Oh yes, you're such a loon, Premier Smith, for daring for daring to try and make Albertan health professionals lead Albertan health policy. Terrible stuff. You should never do that. You should always just bow down to the World Economic Forum. At least that's what Andrew Antisocial Yob Coyne has to say. Here's another blue check legacy media journalist writing that Danielle Smith, talking about the World Economic Forum's influence on the Alberta Health Services, Danielle Smith daring to say that Albertan health professionals should lead Albertan health policy. She's actually pushing anti-Semitism. Yes, that's right. Calling out the World Economic Forum is anti-Semitic. She writes this: "There's no way to be clever about what's going on here. Danielle Smith embraces and promotes anti-Semitic and paranoid ideology." Here we go, ratio of the week time, and we've got a two-time winner. It's going to the man who does more to keep Justin Trudeau in power than any other Liberal cabinet minister could ever dream of. And we've got, like I said, he's a two-time winner, so the king of the ratio, Omar, he's got some competition for his crown. He better start looking around. It's going to Canada's commander in cringe, Canada's TikTok leader, Jagmeet Singh. Take a look at this horrendous campaign ad he put out on Twitter last week.
When I chose to run for the New Democrats, I thought about the options that I had, and I looked at the other parties, Liberals and Conservatives, and two things struck me. One is the struggles that the community I wanted to represent were facing were directly as a result of decisions made by Liberals and Conservatives. I didn't think that the folks that created the problem could then somehow solve the problem. They had chosen to allow the super wealthy to exploit people. In the case of Brampton, where I first ran, wealthy, powerful insurance companies were exploiting racialized people and workers and people with lower socioeconomic backgrounds and charging them more just because of who they are. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to fight back against that. I wanted to let people know that you could have someone on your side that stands up to powerful corporations that want to exploit you.
Did you guys catch that there? Jagmeet Singh says that he chose to run for the New Democratic Party because the problems facing his community were caused by the Conservatives and the Liberals. So he chose to run for the New Democrats so that he could do more than any other parliamentarian in the House of Commons to keep the Liberals in power, to keep creating the same problems. Does this guy not even proofread what he writes? Does he not proofread what he puts out on social media? Is his social media team that stupid and that incompetent? I mean, I'm afraid, honestly, so much of what we face in this country can be leveled at the feet of Jagmeet Singh and his spineless act of propping up the Liberal government. It is ridiculous to me. The least working class person to lead the New Democrats is Jagmeet Singh, and the man who's done more to prop up the Liberals than any other parliamentarian in the House of Commons is Jagmeet Singh. Now take a look at this ratio. This is a thorough smackdown of a ridiculous video from Jagmeet Singh. He's got 891 likes and 2,752 replies. Andrew Lawton wanted to help Jagmeet Singh out a little bit, so he rewrote Jagmeet Singh's tweet, and he wrote this: "The struggles of the community I wanted to represent were directly as a result of the decisions made by Liberals and Conservatives, and so that's why I decided to support the Liberals for 4 years." No matter how you attempt to deflect the narrative, you have no moral ground to stand on. You lost all respect and credibility with your support agreement. I can assure you, Jack Layton would be extremely disappointed in you. You sold your political soul. Retweet if you concur. How very well put by that Twitter user. This person writes it perfectly. "Bro, you're a sellout, that's all you are. You aren't fooling anyone with your TikToks." And this person writes, "Is this your resignation?" Now, if you want to just see how far Jagmeet Singh has fallen and how much he's in the pocket of Justin Trudeau, how committed he is to keeping Justin Trudeau in power, take a look at what he said on Sunday when speaking to CTV. The journalist on CTV asked him, if the Emergencies Act Committee finds that Trudeau's invocation of the Emergencies Act was not justified, which basically means if Justin Trudeau invoked warlike measures on peaceful Canadians, and the judge found that it was wrong to do so, would you then break the coalition that you have formed with Justin Trudeau? And look at what he says.
Then let me ask you this, Jagmeet Singh. If the commission concludes that really it was not justified, would you withdraw your support of the Liberals?
That doesn't seem that it would be, depending on the results, we'd have to hear exactly what the results are. I don't want to presuppose the findings. If there's something that comes out in the findings that I didn't imagine or we didn't anticipate, then we'll have to reserve our judgment. But simply because it was the wrong decision, wouldn't be enough for us to break or to force the country into an election.
That's going to do it for us this week on the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please help us out by hitting that subscribe button, helping us get to 100,000 subscribers. I'll catch you tomorrow on Fake News Friday. My name is Harrison Faulkner, and this is Ratioed.